right, so this is going to open an interesting dialogue in terms of this trend that's happening where indie horror games are being turned into films. Now, one of the major ones was The Mortuary's Assistant about a month ago, and a little bit over a month ago, and I'm a big fan of The Mortuary's Assistant. In fact, it's one of the only games that has genuinely creeped the ever living fuck out of me. And I continue to play and love it till this day. It's a great game, but the film just absolutely did not hit or capture what I wanted from this adaptation. Now, next month we have Backrooms, another analog horror game, liminal space game that is being turned into a big budget movie by A24, which does look good. And this weekend you have Exit 8. Now, Exit 8, for you guys who aren't familiar, is a really fun game that is categorized as a horror game. For me, it certainly is not. Obviously, horror and fear is very subjective. What scares you doesn't scare me, and vice versa. To me, this is very much a whimsical, liminal, supernatural, psychological thriller more than it is a straight up horror game. The concept and premise is very simple. You are stuck in a subway, a never-ending loop, and you have to make your way to Exit 8. Now, in order to make it to Exit 8, you have to acknowledge all the anomalies every time you make a circle around the subway hall. Now, anomalies are just things that are different. That ventilation system might not have been there your last go around, or that door, or there's a weird sound. Maybe there's a weird interaction. Maybe you fart differently than you did last time. All these things are anomalies, and those things are caused to go back and restart. Now, if you go through and there is an anomaly that you don't notice, you get stuck back at Exit 0 and have to make your way back to Exit 8 by repeating the same rinse and repeat cycle of the gameplay mechanics. The game is light on story and it's light on scares. It's all about liminal space, uncomfortable visuals, disconcerting sounds, a state of unsettling uncanniness. Like, that is what liminal space is, right? It's very much in vein of cosmic horror, but in its own right, something completely different. And when I saw the trailer of the movie, it gave me a more hyper stylized version of what the game was. It felt more high energy than the game actually seemed to me. So I was curious, but optimistic, because visually it looked impressive and they threw a lot at the screen in that trailer and the music is rambunctious. It had me going, but I still had my questions as to why they adapted this. How would they adapt it? Mortuary's Assistant was disappointing. And now we have this one. And to me, it was extremely disappointing. But the consensus is that critics are loving it. And the reason that I say that is because I don't care about other people's opinions. Obviously, if we're having a conversation, I'm going to care because I'm asking. But I'm not going to go on Rotten Tomatoes and vindicate my judgment of a movie being good or bad if the audience score is good or the critics. I don't fucking care, right? Obviously, I'm talking about how I feel about movies. That's it. But I was very curious about what the critics would say as opposed to the audience, right? Because critics are basically just film snobs and the audience are the fans of the game. So I was I'm curious. The audience score isn't up, but the critics are 95%. They're loving this. And I have a feeling the audience might too. So I'm going to be the odd man out and say, while this is not a bad movie at all, I was not in any way, shape, or form happy to be in the theater watching it. The premise, this novel premise of just figuring out how to get out of this liminal space, noticing differences in the hallway experience over and over again, just doesn't fit a film format, especially for an hour and a half. Now, granted, your lengths of a game may vary, but an hour and a half is ridiculous. This should have been a short film. The whimsy of the gaming experience comes from you being immersed in the experience of observation, noticing things, and trying to win your freedom. You, as the player, that is your objective, while also kind of being surprised by all the weird visuals and uncanny characters that just come across you as you're experiencing this game. And it's uncomfortable, and it's creepy, and it's liminal, but it's not scary. And this is all based on how you observe the environment and how much attention to detail you pay. The first issue with this movie is that it cannot in any way, shape, or form replicate that experience because you are not the man behind the camera. You are also not the writer. You are not playing the game. You are watching someone's already predetermined path in film form on the screen. And at no point does the camera try to linger on something long enough to make you be an active participant in the story and go, I think that's wrong. Nope, I think that's off. It doesn't. You might catch a glimpse. But if you ask me, that should have been like the main mechanic of the camera. That should have been why the camera was used in the first place. Because if you don't do that, if you're not proactively asking me to think and move forward with the character, then you just risk being redundant for a good chunk of this movie. And after the first 15 minutes, which I was like, please, no, not yet. Don't make me get bored of this yet. After the first 15 minutes, man, I was like, oh shit. Oh no. Oh no, I'm not gonna like this, am I? I'm not gonna like this. And sure enough, I did not. And again, there's nothing wrong with the movie. It is shot well. It does its best to replicate the style of the game with the big, bright, saturated yellow when there is yellow and the whites glistening reflections off the tiles of the subway walls and the liminal nature of it all. It's replicated well, but it's not scary. That's just it, is replication. That's all. And the movie tries to weave a lot of heavy themes of decision making and chance and fatherhood and redundancies and conforming. But they're there and they try to tie it together in between long stints of the same sequence happening over and over again that you are forced to watch but not partake in. And I'm sorry, but just you don't have to turn every game into a movie. And this is just one that for me should have never been made into a movie. This Groundhog's Day experience, light experience in a subway for an hour and a half where I have no real interactivity with this character or his decisions. It's not like Netflix's Bandersnatch, right? Where you like had your remote and you could be like, look at that. None of that. And then you give us a character that's not really interesting. You know, they present a dilemma at the beginning of the film. And that is the dilemma that is used as a metaphor for a lot of the hallucinations or visuals, if you will, that are used later on in the movie. But far in between, is there anything really happening? And then we do these, we switch characters, right? We switch to another character. And we try to add dimension to this character. But this character does the same thing our main protagonist does. And it only serves as a moment of exposition to show us what a character escaping looks like and to reinforce the idea of guilt. But for a film that is so short, yet feels so fucking long and drags for so much of its runtime, this experience, like this allegory for guilt just wasn't interesting enough for me to follow because the character just is dull. He's really dull. And I guess, like, hey, if you're trying to replicate just being a voiceless character in a video game, you got that. Not that he's voiceless, but he might as well have been because he just wasn't interesting to watch. And when the crux of his emotional part of the story finally kicks in, I didn't care. I genuinely did not care. I just couldn't give less of a fuck. So it was just really difficult to find anything about this movie worth hanging on to aside from the occasional visual. Now, there are two big but very short set pieces that already shown in the trailer, which involve the rats and the water that goes through the tsunami that forces its way through the subway. Which, when you play the game, it's just like creepy brown water, and here they go crazy with the tsunami splash. I know. It just I saw them trying to go like, yeah, we need something to liven it up. Make sure this shit fills the whole fucking subway. And to be fair, it does kind of feel like there's this Death Stranding-ish ending. If you've played that game, you know what I'm saying. But there is a very art house, very ambiguous like energy to the ending, and then And I guess that was good, but it's just for a good chunk it felt like we're fighting two parts of my brain. I'm like, are you trying to be ambiguous and deep? Because you're every so often you give me something and then the rest of the time we're just doing this shit again. Except I'm not playing. I It just doesn't feel like this game was made for an adaptation. I'm sure it's going to have its audience and I'm sure it's going to do great, but this was definitely one for me that I in no way, shape, or form will one remember or ever want to watch again. That was a rough one for me. I was just very bored. But anyway, that's my review for Exit 8. Let me know if you guys catch it this weekend. I'm sure some of you are interested. Let me know if you don't agree. Turn my opinion around, please. I love good discourse. Good discourse, not shitty ones. Anyway, thanks for listening and watching. At this point, we got 99 subscribers. One more, and we're at 100. So let's go. We're gonna set our new goal of 250 after that. So let's. I appreciate you guys. Let's keep going. And as always, I will see you at the movies.